Well, good morning, YouTube. It's Charlie here at Partickhill Station. Saturday morning on a fairly warm November day. So it's sort of bright and early here. I hope you're able to tune in. And please let me know if you can hear me. So today I thought I would do something a little bit different. This is an Lner day. But the interesting thing about it is, just comments or no comments yet. The interesting thing about it is the Lner didn't really visit Glasgow. That was the East Coast, and it would go in through Edinburgh. But it's just that they have such nice stock, sort of irresistible not to have them here. So I must be too early for most folks, unless something is going wrong, because it doesn't seem to be anybody in the station as yet. Well, not to worry. You may just be getting the tea on. Well, it tells me I'm live, and that's a good thing. But if you're out there and you can hear me, please let me know. Just check everything again to see what's going on. Yeah, tells me I'm live. Can't imagine what's happened. Just wondering if the internet is done. Oh, there's Lee. No sound. Okay. Test. Okay, thanks, Lee. I hope it's on loud and clear. Just let me know. I'm using the Blue Yeti, and I think sometimes it's a little bit temperamental, but if you can hear me, that's great, and if it's clear. So anyway, welcome to Partickhill Station here through YouTube and Streamyard. And thanks very much for dropping by. Well, there's Dara's locomotive shed. I can hear you. Thank you. Dara, it's always a case of how well you can hear me. That's always seems to be the challenge. And Dara, where are you? My B12 is a little bit temperamental this morning. You're in Dublin. Oh, that's great. I was in Dublin for a day and a night, I think it was, on the way to Glasgow. Aer Lingus had offered a cheaper flight than the other airlines to get from Toronto to Glasgow, but you had to stay over one night in Dublin, either on the way there or on the way back. So we did that, and it was in May a few years ago. It was a little bit wet, but that was okay. Interesting to be in Dublin and see the sights, and it was busy with lots of people there. I think the schools were still in, of course, and there were lots of tourists, probably as usual. We took the bus. Wet today still. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, that's the noticeable difference between living in the UK, Ireland is it does rain a lot, whereas here in North America we don't get a lot of rain. There is a kind of rainy season, but generally speaking, it's dry. We do get a lot of snow, especially here in Ontario. And in the summer, we get massive thunderstorms, and of course, in the States, they get tornadoes and hurricanes. Meanwhile, in British Columbia, it's very much like Britain. It's a milder climate out there, but it does rain a lot. Cool Sanders, hi, how are you? Good morning, and welcome to Partickhill Station. Maybe you can tell us where you're from, or where are you right now? You have to be careful. You can't ask people, oh, where are you from? That could be interpreted as being racist, but we won't go there. It's just a fact of life now. Having a little bit of trouble with this. It's an old triang, and it hasn't run much these days. I had it out yesterday for a test run. But there you go. Now, you will notice that there is a little bit of difference between some of these coaches, and most noticeably on the Flying Scotsman train. If you didn't see it a few weeks back, I went through the process of painting these coaches. I'll just slow it down here a bit. Now, as you can see, I'll try and reverse it a bit. And there you go. So, as you can see in that shot there, there's two different types of Thompson coaches. The one at the left-hand side, the second coach, is the actual Triang released coach that I'm sure many of you have. The one in front of it is one that I painted with this Grandam fur. I think it's something like that, the name of the paint. And I got it from Citadel. And I only put one coat on, and I think it looks fantastic. Now, it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but it probably looks more like teak than what the original release Triang coaches were. Now, in the case of the coaches that have been pulled by the B12, you can see the difference between the first and second coach. I painted this one with sepia from Citadel, and it's got a totally different tone. It's lighter than the one you see on the Flying Scotsman there as it passes. And I think it's entirely possible that when they painted these coaches, it would depend on the mix of the paint, how it would show. But I think it brings a bit of added colour to this rake for sure. And it was a nice little exercise to go through. Yeah, that's very funny, Tara. Right? Yeah, my memories of living in Glasgow was that, you know, sometimes you go out, you get a brand new tailored suit on, and you go to the dancing, and then on the way home it's pouring, and your mohair suit gets ruined. Yeah, those were the days. I certainly don't miss them. Well, good morning, Dan. How are things with you? And maybe you can tell us where you're at today. Dara, that's the way they were issued by Triang Hornby. But when you look at some historical photographs, you will see that the roofs are often kind of grey colour. Chile Mint, okay, we've got to put this one up. Chile Minneapolis, doing okay, winding down from work, busy season. Busy season. Now, you wouldn't happen to be a farmer, would you? Or work in the forestry industry? Minneapolis, I was there one time. Well, in fact, I never got there. I had an interview in Duluth with the shipyard there, and at this time I was working in a shipyard here in Ontario, and they said, "Yeah, why don't you come for an interview? We'll send you. Well, you buy the ticket and then expense it." So I got as far as Wisconsin, I think. It was in the middle of winter, and ran into a problem. This is run into a problem here. Let's just see. Excuse the hand of God. Sometimes it's necessary for an intervention. Yeah. So we got as far as Wisconsin, dropped in Detroit and then Wisconsin. And Duluth was closed due to the weather. So they put me up in a hotel that night at the airport. And then the next day, there was going to be a flight later. But the timing was tight because I had agreed to take a couple of days off work and go and do this. So I decided that I couldn't stay another night in Wisconsin and then fly to Duluth. So I came back. They graciously paid my expenses for the flight. And I never did go to Duluth. Maybe that was a good thing, maybe not. However, my wife worked with 3M. Dan, you'll know 3M. This is a good one. We can talk about this. So my wife worked for 3M for 30 years. I think it was 30 years, and took early retirement. So the interesting thing about, and people have many, many questions about pensions and healthcare in the US. And I know it's complicated, and it would take more than an hour to explain. But here in Ontario, and in my case, or my wife's case, if you work for an employer, a large employer who has a pension plan, there are two types of pensions now. One is a defined benefit, and the other one is a contributed benefit. So the difference is the defined benefit was, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Dan, you would end up basically as a take-home pay what you received as a salary, based on the number of years that you had been in the pension plan. Whereas in my case, I worked in contract for many years and was not part of the pension plan. Made my own contributions to an RRSP, which I think in the US is a 401k. So they're quite different, but in the healthcare situation, we basically have free healthcare here in Ontario. However, as an employee, you've got private healthcare, which is added benefits. So, it doesn't matter if you have to have surgery or the birth of a child or anything like that, it's all covered. However, this old girl is kind of struggling there. So when you retire, and if you turn 65, any medications, prescriptions that you would get are no longer covered by the insurance of the benefit program from your employer. That gets picked up by the Ontario government in our case. So that means that some medications you may have to pay a portion of the cost if they're specialized type medications. But it's in general, it's a good system. Well, just a general observation from a Canadian, let's say, with a Scottish accent. I've been to the States many, many times to different locations. And I would say that my observation is that in general, quote unquote, well, a bit of a derailment here. Just going to turn this off for a minute. Very annoying. And I might take that B12 off. But, my observation is that Americans in general appear to have more disposable income. As an example, in Tennessee, there is no state tax. Now, our daughter lives in Tennessee, but she lived in LA. And one reason that they moved was because they would pay less tax in Tennessee. And that's why a lot of entertainment type people have moved out of California for that specific reason. So yeah, the B12 is a bit problematic. I'll need to see if I've got something else here. Yeah, sorry about that. As I stepped away, uh, I inadvertently tugged on the power cord for the laptop and didn't notice that it had pulled out. So that was untidy of me. Um, I'm just setting up another local here. Yeah, so I've got another local uh, coming in there. There's something not lined up properly. It's always been an issue with those Grizzly coaches that the wheels didn't always operate correctly. And I did start the process of replacing them with metal wheels. I might have missed a couple. Yeah, he certainly does, Dan. And very much the case here. And, you know, talking about the weather in Duluth, I was posted to Winnipeg, which isn't that far away. It's just not far away from Duluth. And I know that people in Winnipeg often visit Duluth. Anyway, I was there to look after the rollout of a new piece of engineering software so that we could 3D model a hydroelectric dam. And I was there for 2 years. I would fly out there on the Sunday night, stay 2 weekends, and then fly back to Toronto, and then fly back out on the Sunday night. So it was minus 40 in the winter, and in the summer, it was very nice, but they had lots of mosquitoes. I think there's an issue with that tender. It's sounds as if it's off the rails a little bit. Yeah, and the other thing is when we go down to the States, the numbers for things are the same. $20.75. But the value of the Canadian dollar is more than 30 cents, probably more like 35, 37 cents less than the US dollar. And that's a bit of a killer. So whenever we go down there, you know, my wife will say to me, don't you even think about what that is in Canadian dollars, just pay it. But being Scottish, I'm always cognizant of the value of a dollar or a pound. And it's much the same when we go to the UK. It used to be about 250, 260 in Britain's favour, which was horrific. You know, travelling with a couple of kids and getting accommodation, renting a car, buying food, eating out. It was always very expensive until more recent times. It's improved. You know, $1.68 or something of that order. But the other thing with the UK is the price being charged for locomotives, etc. I find it absolutely shocking and cannot imagine paying upwards of £300 for a locomotive. It's just insanity. Or you're all very rich over there. If I sneaked a locomotive in here that was that price, I'd be hung, drawn, and quartered by dinner time. It's just incredible that it's risen that much. And in spite of people saying, well, it's higher quality, etc., etc. Yeah, that's great. How much higher quality is it that you want? Because, well, the higher quality is a result of the software and tooling used. So if you're using software to build 3D models, the guys who do it get paid very well. I know that because that was my kind of thing. So they get high wages, and the cost of the software, the support of the software is also expensive. Plus, add to that the new tooling. That's where the majority of the cost goes to. And they've done their ROIs and costs, expenses, and come up with they've come up with what they think is come up with what they think is a fair and reasonable price. But it's gotten to the point where it is no longer, in my opinion, fair and reasonable. Now, there are many people out there, and I am definitely not one of them, that would buy a locomotive or a set of coaches and put them on a shelf to sit there and never or rarely have those wheels touch a track. Yeah, see, if you have the slightest little out of alignment, whether it's your couplings, your hooks, or your wheels aren't just perfect, and your points, it can result in a derailment. And I find that very frustrating because, as I said last night, I spent about an hour setting everything up, testing it so that locos were running and I wasn't experiencing any derailment. But overnight, who knows what happens? And we don't have mice here, so I'm not sure what the reason would be. But it happens. And this isn't a large layout. And there's a few points on each track. And I just find I'm constantly fiddling with them. And that might be because they're only pinned down. They're not glued down. So there could be a little bit of movement occurs. Albeit that I'm in the basement and, it's heated in the winter and it's cooled in the summer. So it's like a constant temperature for the most part, with very little expansion and contraction taking place. So while we're chatting, I'm just trying to get um, another camera set up here. And I've invited through Gmail my cell phone, and I'm just going to set it up here. Well, there you go. There's a different view for what an echo. Yeah, so I hope that's okay. There's no echo now. So that's a different view for you. For those that are not familiar with the layout, so the bridge that you see, I got that idea from Tony Northeastern. If you're not familiar with Tony, you should look him up. He's got a fabulous layout and he builds everything from scratch. So he did a series of videos on a bridge that's not dissimilar to that one. And I thought, well, I can do that. So I dug out my old draftsman tools and I have a set of trammels and I laid out that bridge that you see there. Now, the material I used for that was mat board. Now, if you don't know what mat board is, that is a material that you see on paintings that are watercolor, basically. Have this matting that's cut out so that you can see the art within the frame. So what I did find was it was pretty tough to cut, but I worked away at it and to try and get a closer look. The main span beams, like these, are made up of a top and bottom flange with a web in between. And I cut each of them out. I cut the web plate out, and then I worked the flanges around the curve, gluing it in position. So it was a lot of work, but in the end, it was really worth it. So there must be something on today that I'm clashing with. I didn't see anything on a schedule, but maybe there's a soccer game that everybody's watching, at least in the UK. Well, it looks like there's only one viewer in now. And as I said, that's pretty unusual. Because generally speaking, at least I haven't found that there's another show on at the same time. Although last week, just so happened that Clive at Newell Railway was in his shop with his layout, and I know he's working furiously with it. Yeah, so back to well, let's talk about the locos again. I'm getting a little bit of an echo from somewhere, but and I suspect it's the camera, the cell phone behind me. So I think the only brand new locos I have are a couple of locos that I got from the Hornby Club. One of which was that one. Nice little diesel. Everything else I've bought used second hand, right? So, and at fairly reasonable prices. Because when I first started building the layout, I would go to the odd train show here, and I think there was only one British train show a year. And the first train I bought was the Triang Princess. And it's now 50 or 60 years old. And it runs great with a little bit of regular oil. Then I started purchasing locos and stock from eBay. And I must say, for the most part, in those early days, eBay was fine. There was lots of communication with people. And the cost of postage was fairly reasonable. But now it's outrageous, absolutely outrageous. I no longer buy anything from eBay unless it is a real deal, because often I find that the price of the item for sale is matched by the postage. And that is just becoming cost inhibitive. Now, there is a model train show here about an hour's drive east from where I am in the north end of Toronto. And I think I'll go there today. Um, I have a couple of unopened Harry Potter train sets from Bachman. They're nice sets, no question. But I mean, I had plans for them, but those plans have changed, and they're sitting in the boxes. So I thought I'll try and sell them. So I might take them along with me, and I'll maybe grab some coaches that I might have too many of. Because while in the odd occasion it's nice to run a train of 9 or 10 coaches, this isn't a big layout, and it's not entirely suitable for a rake of coaches of that length. Yeah, I'm not really looking for anything in particular, but I'll see how it goes. And it's not a British show, it is model railroad, so it primarily be North American, and you never know who you're going to run into. Tom Hewson, good morning. Oh, well, Tom, that's great that you've been able to be in the garden. Uh, Maybe that storm never materialized, or maybe it's rained for a few days and it's allowed you to dig things up. Willow Creek. Well, I am honoured um, from everyone who's on here or watching and lurking in the background, as they would say. Willow Creek is in, correct me if I'm wrong, is in Dunedin, New Zealand. Now, and he's got a nice little industrial siding layout there that he's developing. Now, I was in Dunedin for a day off a cruise, and I visited the train museum there, which was absolutely outstanding. So welcome, Brad. Um, I've got photographs of the station and the locals, and yeah, made my day. And I'm trying to think when that cruise was. Um, it might have been February or something like that. Um, so it was kind of overcast. It was sunny and warm in Auckland when we boarded the ship. By the time we got to Dunedin, it was like a fall day, overcast, and just a little bit crispy. And that's the one thing that I always try to do whenever we travel is look for the railways and where is the station. And if you're interested, anybody out there, if you go into my YouTube site, uh, you will see a number of videos about visiting a station in different places that we have visited. There was one in Rio de Janeiro. We didn't get to the main station, but there is a train that goes up the mountain, and that was an amazing experience. And I am getting a little bit of an echo behind me from that cell phone. And when we went to Sydney, uh, it reminded me very much of London in terms of the number of lines that headed out from Sydney in every direction. And of course, across the bridge over to the other side of the harbour. So, Tom, are you in the process of building your layout or updating it, or what's happening? So I bought this ammeter, and I said last week that Alan in the loft has a couple of them uh, on his control panel. So that cost me like $1.40 from Temu, I think it was. Free delivery. It's just incredible. But I had ordered another one, uh, I think through eBay, and it's taken weeks to get here. I'm not sure where it is at the moment. But if you've never purchased anything from Temu, have a look at it. They've got some really incredible stuff, albeit that any of the railway stuff is HO, but some of it does fit in. Well, that might be a good idea, Tom, is get the new roof done, because the last thing you want is to be standing on the platform and it's pouring rain. So I think there's a couple of people on here that might not be entirely familiar. I think Brad means Temu, but yeah, you're right. Yeah, don't worry about it, Brad. My typing is awful. So, a little bit of background about the station. I lived in an area called Partick in the west end of Glasgow, and there was a couple of train lines nearby, but the station was called Partickhill. And so when I decided to build this, I immediately thought, yeah, Partickhill, that's what I'll call it. And you can see there, and that is a 3D printed sign that I did. Anyway, yeah, so I'm in the process of trying to find or scratch build buildings that were in the Partick area. And I think the only way I can accomplish that is by scratch building them myself. A leopard's tail. Yeah, that's so very true. And so, leopard, where are you? So this building here is what you call a tenement building. And that's typical of what was built in Glasgow in the late 1800s, anywhere around the river, which covered a large swath of land. And that's where the ship owners, shipbuilders, engineering works housed their employees. Like terrible, terrible conditions, like third world conditions, really awful. And it's amazing that people survived. So that's representative of the place in which I was born and lived for the first 12 years of my life. And I built that from cardboard, from grey board. And the roof tiles is from black poster board. The figures are from Bachman, and they're perfect. And that building there is not exactly the same, but as a building in Partick. But I got that through, I think it was Model Rail. It was a giveaway. And now when I show that to people who live in Partick today, they would say, "Oh yeah, that's just like the building up Essex Drive," and it brings back memories to them. Barnsley. Well, I've never been to Barnsley. I've been through Yorkshire, but not Barnsley. Um, yeah, so that apartment flat building, it came as a giveaway on the magazine Model Rail. Um, and I put it together one weekend and really happy with the way it turned out. And it fits in there perfectly. And yeah, the nice thing is that uh, on Facebook, uh, I posted this and said, "Oh, when you're walking along Dumbarton Road, cast an eye up Essex Drive and tell me if this looks the same." Yeah, thank you. That is, I think that's a Hornby 002 rail. Uh, it just keeps running. Very little maintenance, a little bit of oil now and again. Yeah, so Brad, it is difficult. All the houses that you see and above the station they're primarily based on buildings that are in England, and you can find them in any main street, any high street, in any town in England. Um, from a Scottish perspective, uh, the architecture doesn't really fit. So, I took it upon myself to do some scratch building, and just show you here. This is a cement building that I scratch built using that grey card. And the corrugated papers I got from either 3DK or Scale Model Scenery. I can't remember which. But now it's in a position that, well, I don't have a siding for it anywhere. Originally, had intended building a siding and putting in some cement carriers in there. But that too, like many things, changed. So right now, I'm trying to figure out how I can build a Woolworths store. Now, I have lots of photographs of the original Woolworths store in Partick that people have posted. And I'm trying to figure out how I can get a dimension to begin with. So I posted on my Facebook, is there anybody there that can, as you walk by what is now the pound store, lift a dimension for me? Because I was thinking, if I get the dimension of a doorway, I can move forward from there. So last night, I imported the photograph of the Woolworths store into my Procreate software. Now, Procreate is it's an artist software that allows you to do stuff similar to that, which can be done on Photoshop, but it's much cheaper. So my intention is to, and I've already started the process, put in a rectangle that suggests the physical size of a door in a scale of 1 to 76, and then scale up the photograph of the Woolworths store to suit that sketched in door. That way I can then trace over everything. Then I can drop the reference and print out basically the architectural drawing of that facade. It's a bit of an undertaking, but I'm going to have a go at it. And I put it on plastic card or cardboard. So I had a couple of questions about some decoders that I purchased. I'm just going to show you this. It's from a company called TCS. They're down in the States. And so you can see this without the glare. That's the decoder. Now that costs $20 US. Plus $20 US to post. And then I bought 4 of them. And when it arrived here, I was charged $24. So the cost was US. And then when they arrived here, I had to pay nearly $25 Canadian on duty and fees. Rarely has that happened. So I got this information from Dave at Scott Rails. And he has a number of those decoders and they seem to work. So the whole idea is that I will make one of the tracks DCC, or at least I'll try and make it so that I can switch from DC to DCC. And, you know, I'll pick one of these locos that I've got and convert it. and see how that goes. Leopard's tail, yes. Counting bricks is a good way, but in this particular case, there are no bricks on the facade. It's basically all steel and glass. But what I did was there was a figure, person who's in the photograph, and I estimated that it may have been, I'm guessing 5'10". So when I drew in this doorway or traced it, there was still about a foot above his head. So I was guessing that the doorway was probably 6'10" or 7 feet. So that's the beginning. Yeah, you're right. The commercial door, definitely different. Yeah, and Google Earth, yeah, I've used that a few times, but that only allows you to get dimensions on a plan view. You for whatever reason, you can't get reliable information for vertical dimensions. Yeah, you're correct. I won't know until I get it on paper. Then I can look at it. Now I've got a cricket machine, and I've rarely used it, but I have plans to do so. Yeah, you're correct. You know, I can go into Google Earth and get the length of that building for sure, and that's a good start. On the topic of what's local and what's not, like that cinema is that's from a kit, but I painted on I attached the lettering so that it says Tivoli. In Partick, there was a cinema called the Tivoli. And people look at that, oh yeah, the Tivoli, that brings back memories of going on a date. But it kind of bears no resemblance to the actual building that was there. It's just the name. Yeah, they are expensive. You can get a good deal on sales if you go to some of these. In Canada, they've got Michael's. You know, you may have the Hobby Hut or something like that in the States. But the thing is, you still have to draw your buildings and then put it in the software. And it's generally not that you can download something from the internet. Well, I hope everybody's hit the like button. You know, it's interesting. I'll do a show like this, and there may be, in this case, it says there are 3 people viewing. There's generally more. But if I go out later and go into YouTube, there would be multiples have viewed it or are viewing it. Anyway, so there you go. A Star is Born. Yeah, you know, as I say, I've got a little bit of an echo behind me, and it's always a pain to resolve. I can't find my earplugs to try that to negate that echo. And you know, Tom will probably have the answer here, but I do have the sound down and I've muted it, so I'm not quite sure why I'm getting the echo. I guess you can't see that one. But I do have this. This is the Blue Yeti. And I'm not sure if it was working earlier. Hey, Timber, how are you? But I'll do a little test here. So I've muted the laptop. Now tell me if you can hear me as I'm speaking to the Blue Yeti. And now I've turned the audio back on the laptop. So yes, you can. Okay, so thanks for that, Tom. So now I'm speaking directly to the Blue Yeti, and hopefully you're loud and clear. Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know. I think what happens in Streamyard when you go into settings, and I'll do that right now just to check. It's good for people to know. So if I get into, all right, so what it's telling me is the MacBook Pro is the default in this case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that to the Blue Yeti. Now you need to do is tell me if you can hear me now. Yeah. So Tom, I went into settings and I changed the default audio to the Blue Yeti. Okay. So that works, and you know, it is a bit of a black art sometimes. Now, the one I haven't figured out yet is the speaker. So maybe you can tell me if you can hear me now. Tom, it changes the default. Hey, Dino, how are you? I was wondering where you might be. Yeah, we're just talking about settings here in StreamYard. I'm not sure if so I'm sharing the screen. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I haven't figured that one out yet, Tom. But when I go into settings, and if I go to, well, I wonder if we can. We'll do it this way. So that is the settings page for the camera. I hope you can see that. And you can, there's the FaceTime. For this layout, this view here is the laptop itself. Or you go to audio, and there's the Yeti. So yeah, it is complicated, and I find it frustrating. Okay, I don't know if you can hear that, because I don't hear it. Although I'm getting an echo, and I think it's from the cell phone. So I guess you can hear. Okay, so that's good, but I can't hear that. So I know that some people. Some people have become frustrated by StreamYard because it's not 100% simple. And I think there's a way of setting it up. I'm using this camera. In this particular case, the default would be my laptop. But I can, by going into settings, I can change that and go on to another camera. And then what I do is I send an invitation by email, and I pick up Gmail through the system, and I open it up in the camera. I accept the invitation, and then it comes in here. Now, I believe the same thing is if I were to, as an example, I'm going to do a test. I'm going to invite somebody, and I'm going to copy the address, and this is all experimental stuff here. So I've just sent a link. If anybody would like to participate, yeah, Dino, you should do it. Just go on open it up and let the trains run for a while. But the first thing you have to do is say, "Hi YouTube, thanks for dropping by," and let the trains run. You don't have to talk all the time. But you know, it's a bit like radio. Silence is very expensive because people are expecting a conversation, having some discourse. So in this case, no mic or camera. Well, which machine are you using? Oh, okay, so there's somebody. Oh, there's Tom. Hey, Tom.
Hello.
Speak up a bit.
Hello. Hi. Now, can you hear me?
Tom, we can hear you.
Oh, great.
Albeit a bit quiet.
Ah, okay.
So you're on, Tom, and that's how simple it is to get people to tune in. As I said, all I did was
Hold on, I've got a lot of echo going on here.
I went to invite, which is the figure with the plus sign on it. That takes me to a page where I copy the link and then send it.
I can hear you,
as I did here in the chat, and you picked up on it.
Stream about 3 seconds away. 3 seconds later.
Hang on a second, but yeah. Go ahead, Tom. So I think you should hear me clear, and if you speak, I should hear you clear. And there's Brad. Oh my God. Wow. Look at that.
Morning. Morning, everyone.
How's it going, Brad?
Good, thank you.
Well, the one technical issue I'm experiencing here is I can hear you a bit on my cell phone behind me, but it's not coming through here on my laptop. So a bit of a black hole there, Tom.
Right. I think I've solved the problem that I had, because I opened the link in a new tab, and obviously I had the previous tab up, so hence I was having the delayed echo.
Yeah. There's Brad coming on.
There we go. That's better.
Yeah, I'm not sure why this is, and there's a little bit of a delay, of course, but on the laptop,
we've got three continents for a start.
What was that, Tom?
Well, we've got 3 continents for a start.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very good.
I think what I did was I turned off the speaker on the laptop, and so I don't hear you, but you hear me. And in this particular case, the cell phone is a guest, and that's on a whole different system, and that's why I hear it on there, and I can hear you on there, but I don't hear you through my laptop. I'm not sure if I put a set of headphones on, I'd probably have to hook them up here, and then I would hear it clearly.
Yeah, I guess so.
it's all very interesting and complicated if you're not used to doing this type of thing, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Here's timber.
Adjusting the camera.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm not going to look for headphones now, but I'll do that next time. So, Brad, what's happening?
Oh, not a great deal, really. Just mucking around. It's pretty early here on Sunday morning, so.
Oh yeah, you're a day ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, just been so like moving stuff around, switching a few bits and pieces here and there, and working out my next projects, I suppose. Next things to do on the layout.
So, how's your building going?
Yeah, that's going fine. Yeah, no, the you're talking about the steel supplier, the steel building. It's going quite good. Yeah.
Good.
We're getting there. It's a long process, but it's I'm quite happy with how I've gone so far.
Good. Just in case you've not seen this, and maybe you're interested. These are the $20 digital controllers. Just a small thing.
Oh, see, my layout's just straight DC. I don't have any. I'm not into that. Like, do the DCC thing. So.
Yeah, so is mine. I thought I might experiment with a digital loco, so I would like to eventually set up a toggle so that I can go from DC to DCC and maybe pick. I've got four devices that I can add to locomotives, and I thought I would try it with one and see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm
not guaranteed to work on every locomotive because you would know more than me, Tom, about the electrics of these various types of motors, like an XO3 and a Ringfield, and it might work and it might not work. At least that's what I've been told.
No, those ones should be all right. The only thing is the XO3, I think, will take more current. Will it not? The older motors, I think, generally take more current.
Yeah.
But whether your decoder will be able to supply that, I don't know. But again, I don't really get into DCC myself.
Yeah, I know that, and I've avoided it all this time because, I have these, which are all DC.
Yeah. Again, upgrading those $20 a piece is quite going to be quite a bit.
What was that, Tom?
Sorry, upgrading those at $20 a piece plus shipping or whatever. That's going to be quite an expense. That's one of the things that's put me off DCC.
Yeah, and it's even more expensive if you get them in the UK.
I dare say it'll be more expensive down here. By the time they get down here too, they'll be quite expensive.
Yeah, that's it. Shipping these days tends to kill things.
Yeah, it's getting ridiculous at the moment.
Well, that brings up another topic here that Leopard has raised. Now, I have the Hornby Select controller, but when I got it from Hatton's years ago, I didn't get the plug because I thought, well, it's not going to work here. As a result, I'm trying to find one now, and they're difficult to locate. And there's two type. They're 15 volt 1 amp and 15 volt 4 amps. And the 4 amp one is if you want to run multiples of digitized locomotives, then the recommendation is you get the 4 amp. And I've just found it difficult and expensive to locate this plug. But there is a dealer somewhere in New York who has them. And I think what I'll do is I'll order one, get it sent to my daughter in Nashville, and when we go there for Christmas, I can pick it up and save a fair bit of money in postage.
That sounds like a plan. So your controller has a separate DC input. Does it?
Well,
or does it run from the mains?
What I've got right now is that's controlling the one line. Now, I got that for maybe $10. And then there's the other one.
Right, those are your DC controllers.
Those are my DC. Now,
yeah, sorry, I meant the DCC.
One, yeah, hang on a second. I'll just go and get that one. The other mistake I made when I built this layout was I built it all the way around, and I never thought that I was going to have to crawl underneath. And, you know, as a result, there's a tunnel.
Wow.
All right. That's
Anyway. Oh. So there is the Hornby Digital Select.
Mm-hmm.
So that power input, as you see, is 15 volts. And you can run two tracks.
I can't quite see what the
was that,
power
Tom?
input is. Is that the one in the center next to the RJ45? It's like a coax.
Well, that's the one with a barrel connection.
Right, I can read it now. Input, yeah, power input.
Right. A particular size barrel, not everyone fits it, because I have a number of them around here that I've had from various electronic pieces, but none of them fit. So nothing is standard.
Well, it is for me. Okay.
So in that side, you see it's plus minus 15 volt DC. auxiliary output.
Output. But, yeah.
And then that one there is A and B track.
Does it say on the DC input whether the center is positive? There should be a symbol.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but it's not there.
All right. Thanks, Ronby.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a project for down the road. Let's see.
Yeah, because if you could work out which was positive, which was negative, then you could just use a normal DC power supply. It would be cheaper than buying the Hornby one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just use the Gauge Master on the Gauge Master Combi on my layout, and I haven't had any problems with it whatsoever. Good controllers.
So there's an interesting comment from Leopard's Tail. Yeah, for the electric's exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, all very interesting.
So what's the next part of the layout you're going to be working on, Charlie?
Well, actually, speaking of laptop power supplies, you can buy laptop power supplies with an adjustable voltage output. It's just a slider switch that normally goes from 12 volts up to 19 or thereabouts.
Yeah, I saw them, Tom. Not cheap.
Oh, right. Okay.
Anyway, lads, my idea for this morning was just to be on for an hour because there is a train show in a place called Whitby, which you're all familiar with. There's a Whitby in England, as you probably know. But there's a town here called Whitby that has a connection with the Royal Navy from the Second World War. Long story.
Right.
But there is a railroad show there today. And
All right.
I thought I'd go out there. And I have 2 unopened sets of the Harry Potter Backman set, which I really don't have a use for. It's a long story about that. So I have 2 of them. I thought I'd put them in the car, and if there are any dealers, I will ask if they have any interest. And also, you know what it's like, you buy coaches and coaches and coaches. I think I've got too many coaches here now.
Yeah, I know.
And I maybe see if there's a dealer that's interested. Plus, I've got books, and you can't send them to the UK because it's too expensive, right? So that is my plan. So on that note, I'm going to say cheerio.
Right.
Thanks for having me
I'm
on.
here for an hour and 56 minutes and counting. But I tell you, I really appreciate Brad dropping in from New Zealand. That is outstanding. It's a worldwide hobby. It reaches every station, everywhere, and you'll always meet somebody on the platform. That's a great thing about it. And you don't have to be a train spotter. So I'm going to let you all go, and thanks everyone
Fair
for
enough.
coming. And remember,
Nice
give
to
me
see
a
you,
big
Brad.
thumbs up, and we'll see you next time here at Partickhill Station.
Cheers, Charlie.
All right.
Bye for
Cheers,
now.
all. Bye.
Bye.